Hello! Today we're going to be making a little pinch pot monster. There he is. So I made that a little while ago and I let it dry and I painted it with acrylic paints, which you can do once yours is dry. If you don't have any clay, you can use Play-Doh if you've got that at home. We need a small pot of water just to wet our clay when we need to stick parts of it together, and something sharp, not too sharp, but something fairly pointed, like a skewer that you can find in the kitchen or anything like that. Now the clay that I'm using is this one, Das clay, which you can get online at several different shops online. If you don't have this at home or you can't get hold of it, if you have some Play-Doh then you can use that as well, okay? I'm just going to grab a piece. You just pull it off like this. Give it a little twist. The first thing we do is called wedging. So we're going to wedge our clay, which basically means we're going to press it down. You don't want to do it directly on a table because it will get stuck. So you can either use a mat, which I'm using, or a plastic tablecloth, or even an old tea towel will do, or an old J cloth, something like that. So we're just going to squish the clay, make it into a ball. This just helps to get any air out of our clay and just makes it nice and soft so that we can make something with it. So this is the size of our monster. So we need to take a few extra pieces off. We'll take about this much for the two eyes, which we'll set aside. And we'll take a little piece off for the tongue as well, okay? That should be enough. So let's just get this into a ball. And we're going to make the monster's body first, or his big body and his mouth there. So this technique is called pinch pots. It's one of the first things that you learn in clay, and you can make lots of different things starting off with pinch pots. So you've got a nice ball like this sort of size, and then you're going to take your thumb and you can literally push your thumb in, not right to the bottom because you'll make a hole in the bottom. See, just like this. And then slowly we're going to keep the thumb in there, and with our finger we're going to press it and pinch it just gently, and as you do it you're going to turn it round like this, okay? So we just keep going. If you get any cracks like that, just smooth them over a little bit with your thumb as you go round. So you're just pressing, see how the hole's getting slightly wider. We just keep going. Any cracks with the other thumb, smooth them over. To make the monster's mouth here, we're just going to start to stretch it. So just very, very gently, fingers and thumb, just start to stretch it. So we need to make the base quite flat like this. So we're kind of getting the shape of our mouth here, and we're going to give it a little tap like this. Okay? So see how we've got a nice flat base now, so our monster won't fall over. So you're going to start to just bring the top of the monster over here like that. Okay, so see at the back, I'm just smoothing and pressing very gently. You can use your water, dip your finger in, and then just a little bit, just rub it round, and that just helps to smooth it. So when you've got any cracks like this or any folds, that will just help to smooth those out so it looks nice and tidy. So that's our basic monster shape, okay? Now we're going to make those big googly eyes. So that's our tongue piece there. These are the eyes. So we're going to tear it in half, and then we're going to roll it. Can you see like this? We're going to roll it round and round and round. Let's have a look. They should be just about the right size. So here's our first eye, and then we'll just take our second piece. You can either make the eyes the same size like that, let's give that one a bit more of a roll, or you might like to do a monster with one small eye and one really big eye, like big googly eyes. It's completely up to you what you want to do. We need to attach them onto here. The way to do that is called scoring. So this is where our little sharp skewer comes into play. So what we're going to do, we mustn't push too hard because we'll make a hole all the way through. We don't want to do that. We just want to make some small lines like that way, and then that way, like a cross hatching. That's called scoring. Then on the bottom of our first eye, which is going to stick on here, we need to do scoring on there as well. This just helps the eye to really stick properly. because when the clay is drying, if you don't do this, the eyes can fall off. We dip our finger in the water so it's just a little bit wet, and then we're going to rub it in there nice and damp, and then on this bit here where we did our scoring again, I'm going to rub some there so both surfaces are wet. Okay, so we're going to hold our finger under here just to support the top of the monster, and the two scored bits here, we're going to press them together, slightly twist them just to make sure they stick, and just hold them for a little while. Okay, this is very important because as the clay dries you don't want the eyes to fall off. Again with our skewer, we're going to score like this, not too deep, we don't want holes in his head, just a little bit, just to scratch the surface with our skewer, and then underneath the second eye we're going to scratch and score again. Okay, so it's about the same size as that. Then we're going to take our finger, dip the finger in the water and make that bit wet there where we've scored it, and make that bit wet where we've scored that as well. Okay, then I'm going to put the two wet surfaces together like this, press slightly, remember we're putting our finger inside the mouth underneath just to support it, to keep the right shape, and then just slightly twist and push. So what have we got left to do? We've got the tongue to do now. So here's my original monster, there's his tongue. So we'll set this one to one side and we're going to make the tongue. First of all we're going to use our fingers and thumbs, and we're just going to get to the right thickness for our tongue. So it goes a little bit thicker here and a little bit thinner at the point, and it also extends right into the mouth there so that it sticks. Okay, and what I'm going to do is use the skewer. It's a good tool to have because we can do lots of things with it. I'm going to press in and use it like a little knife. If you don't have a skewer you can find an old knife to do this. And then we're going to take away the extra clay there, just use your finger to smooth it, just like that. And then again round the other side, make the shape again like that, and then we're going to take away the extra clay. There we go. Okay, so we have a tongue. I'm going to use my finger in the water again, just dip it in there and just give it a rub. I'm going to make it a little bit thinner, it's still a little bit thick, so you can just use your fingers and thumbs and just start to shape it. If it feels a bit too dry, you just pop a finger back in the water again, and then we just squeeze in like this, just to make sure we've got the right thickness, and it's going to go a little bit thinner and a bit pointy at the tongue, so you can go like this to make the pointy bit at the end of the tongue. The other end here, that's going to stick inside the monster's mouth, and we're going to do the same thing we did before with our skewer, and we're going to score it. Again, not too deep. Inside here we're going to do the same inside his mouth. So we're going to score it like this. That's probably about enough. And then we go across this way. Okay. So we've got our two scored surfaces, and now we need to glue these together. So back to our water, because our water is like our glue. Once the water touches the clay it starts to be quite gluey. So we're going to rub just with our fingers, rub some water in there, and then we're going to pop some water inside the big mouth as well. Okay, so we're going to push it in there with our thumbs, press down, not too hard, but press down a little bit, and we just hold it for a while just so that that water starts to act as a glue. And then we're going to slightly bend our tongue round like this. And then if you see the original monster, he's got a little line, hasn't he, in the middle of his tongue. So again, we can use our skewer, not too hard, otherwise we make a hole in it, rub all our clay off. If you pop it into the water, that just helps it not to stick. You can see there like this, start at the back of the tongue, very slowly and not too deep. We're going to make the line down the middle. So this is our monster. I think we better think of a name for him. I wonder what you're going to call your monster. So if you leave him to dry for about 3 or 4 days, once he feels really dry, then you can either use paints or you can use felt tips, and you can colour him in and decorate him any colour you like. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. We'll do some more clay soon.